Learning to ask questions before jumping to answers is a muscle people don't often flex or work out or attempt to improve. And for most of my life, I was in and then I just jump into suggestions. And sometimes you hit a home run and sometimes you don't. But I spent time with a group in an accountability group, and it was 4 of us, and each person we met once a week, and each person would bring an issue. And everybody else in the group could only ask questions. It was like an hour-long Jeopardy session, right? Like, yeah. I mean, you couldn't make, experience shares. You couldn't suggest something. You just basically had to always form it in a question. And that was extremely stressful at the beginning. But then you got good at it. And then so now everything I approach with clients, with my kids, with a lot of things in life, I try not to jump to that conclusion. And I just start asking questions, because ultimately it's about what you want, not what I want.
Welcome to The Roll Call, the podcast where we dive into the roles that define us. I'm your host, John Glahn. On each episode, we explore the journeys of people discovering their true roles in life, business, and beyond. Get ready for inspiring conversations about finding purpose and authenticity. Let's roll the roll call. Welcome, everyone, to The Roll Call. I'm John Glahn with my guest, Brandon Metzger. And Brandon, as an intro that I won't do enough service to, came into my life professionally when I was looking for some fractional help to run my business in what could be called an integrator or COO, et cetera. And I'd interviewed some folks, and then Brandon and I met just for coffee, and I don't think we shut up for a couple hours. It felt like we just hit it off instantly, and really has just always been inquisitive, and has so much experience that he could share with me through startups and funding and everything in between. That he was an invaluable resource that turned into an invaluable friend that cared more about me than my business, which was odd. Normally when you're paying someone, they're focused on the pay and not you as a human being. And so you've played so many roles in my life. That's why I wanted to have you here. And I know you've played immense roles in many, many people's lives. So I think we're all here.
Yes. Thank you very much. That was a very kind introduction.
Absolutely. I like to heap praise on someone so that I can then tear them down with a joke. No,
yes, exactly. No. Punch him in the gut.
So, Brandon, I gave a quick intro. What I'd love to talk through is, again, I know you have an immense professional background and understand all the roles and the hats and things professionally that we have to play. So we'll start with that, and we can morph into the rest of the roles of our lives as we go. But how about you start from the beginning? How are you here, and why am I praising you with all these wonderful things about business?
Yes, I have no idea. Luck of the draw, yeah. Or slim pickings on your part.
Yes.
I've owned businesses for about 25 years now. I got started at a fairly young age, 27. Son was born. Branch manager, when I was a broker, said check in and out when you go to lunch, and that was about the last straw. And so I said, see you later, I'll start my own gig. Yeah. I've started several companies, been part of several startups, manufacturing things, everything from toner to exporting U.S. products to the Middle East, North Africa. Played roles in all of these seats, having to either sell or market or manage people or actually jump in the back and manufacture things. So sat in all of those seats. That led me, when you and I first checked, had that coffee over downtown, mm-hmm. and had sat there for several hours. I was leaving a startup that the partners and I had a different vision on. They wanted to bootstrap. I was trying to raise money, and I was a fractional integrator for EOS. And that's a role I really enjoy because I get to do several things that I feel fit my bucket. Mm-hmm. Coach, mentor a little bit. That sounds egotistical, but I enjoy doing those sorts of things. and then share some of the knowledge that I've gained from all of either the successes or the failures, help prevent people from doing the same thing. And so they went in there. So I've been running a fractional integrator service, which is taking on, usually several clients, up to 3 at a time, and helping the visionary actually achieve their goals and their visions. And to me, it is very important that not only is the business successful, but the individual is successful. That takes us up to kind of today, and I'm stepping out of that role and into the visionary role as I am raising a couple pennies or two to start a company that will recycle circuit boards. So,
wow. So
that's it at warp speed. So
yeah, and as expected, you minimized it, the immense impact in it, and so that's where it's for me to pull out.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you can tease away, but
yeah. And so again, back to our time working together, and as I envision and know how you are with your clients, I'll put a role in you had for me, which was like chief questionnaire.
yeah.
Just so happens your Working Geniuses wander.
Yes.
And so, again, it comes natural for you to question how things are. But one of the most impactful things that endeared me to you was whenever I'd say, you'd ask, what do you want, right? And I'd say what I said. And part of it was like, yeah, well, you said M&A. Well, what have you done about it? And look at you like, you son of a bitch. How dare you ask me that? Just because it's been on my sheet for 3 years and I haven't taken action. How dare you? It's cool for me to tell people I want to do M&A.
Yes.
And so, and then not letting me wiggle on that. And say, okay, well, what action are we taking on that?
Yeah.
Right? And so it was easy for me because, again, the person, I knew exactly what you weren't playing a game, you weren't playing a role. It was like, hey, I'm a hired gun. It was, no. Hey, dude, what are we going to do about your business?
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Yeah. It's learning to ask questions before jumping to answers is a muscle people don't often flex or work out or attempt to improve. And for most of my life, I was in and then I just jump into suggestions. And sometimes you hit a home run and sometimes you don't. But I spent time with a group in an accountability group, and it was 4 of us, and each person we met once a week, and each person would bring an issue. And everybody else in the group could only ask questions. It was like an hour-long Jeopardy session, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you couldn't make, experience shares. You couldn't suggest something. You just basically had to always form it in a question. And that was extremely stressful at the beginning. But then you got good at it. And then so now everything I approach with clients, with my kids, with a lot of things in life, I try not to jump to that conclusion. And I just start asking questions because ultimately it's about what you want, not what I want. And maybe M&A sounds cool, and then we can be like, okay, you can keep it up there because it sounds cool. But if it's actually an objective, then what the heck's holding you back, right? Like, I mean, let's go do it. And a lot of people, in my experience, have all these goals, but they don't necessarily know where to start. So it's figuring out, okay, what is holding you back? Is it a significant other who's just more conservative? Is it a financial situation? Is it a lack of resources? Is it a lack of time? What is it? Then you solve that, and then you're like, okay, you got no more excuses. Let's roll. So that's it. And for you, it was it was a goal for the company, and to help get it, there was a strategic purpose to it. It wasn't only that it does sound cool. I mean, it sounds awesome. I mean, everybody, especially business owners, are like, I want to go buy somebody. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I've done it, and it's a pain in the rear. And you learn so much. But it can turbocharge the business if you do it right. And so it's figuring out why and asking those questions, and then getting people to realize, oh, that's the next step.
Well, and I think another superpower, because of your experience, is helping manage that. Because raising money is one thing, and I think a lot of people have tried, not many people do try because they don't know it, and I'm one of them, right? It was when it's like, I don't know the first step. I don't know. And what is the real story? Why do I want this? Versus just like, hey, yeah, I need a couple $1 million. What do you think? Yeah. I'm cool, right? Don't you like me? Let's go do this. And again, and I think so people freeze in it, but also having someone who, again, been there, done that, and has the nicks and the bruises and the, hey, the gotchas, that's huge. But also, I think what it takes from someone, again, when you know the answer, like most of us our successes come because we know the answer, right? We're the ones that people come to when you're the first one that starts a company. Everyone comes to you, and you feed on that. It feels awesome. Like, yeah, I'm the man. Everybody comes to me. Yep,
the
boom,
ego's
yep,
like, woohoo.
Boom, boom, yeah, I got you. And then, after a while, that just, starts burying you. Then you realize that's not a superpower. That's what's suffocating me.
Yeah.
Wrong, another tangent, which I tend to do. Coming back to you, whereas when you do know the answer and you can tell someone what to do, but to sit, like you said, have the patience to like, I'm sure you gritted your teeth in the beginning, like, I know what your answer is, but I want you to say it, right?
Yeah.
But to have that patience, I think there's something about you, and it could be, it's like you said, it's a learned thing, but you've got to be at peace with where you are.
Yeah. I mean, it's ultimately authenticity, and you have to understand, why are you given the answer? Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're given an answer so you can seem like you know stuff, then you're kind of just feeding your own ego. Mm-hmm. I don't have to live with the financial decisions or the lifestyle that it could lead to, or the headaches, or the time in the office, or whatever else. It's the individual making those decisions. So through asking questions, you can actually find out what the real motivation is. And maybe it's just because, and that's a really poor reason to go do something. And so, everybody has a desire. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. There's a lot of people who have a desire to start something or to do something. But if you delve into it, they don't really have things well thought out. So it's like, oh, you've raised money? Well, yes. Well, can you get me? I don't know. Do you have your stuff together? I could use a better word in there than that. And let me tell you what having your stuff together looks like. And you have this. And then through those conversations, you can figure out what the real motivation is, the desire, how well thought out something is, whether it's anything from a business or time with the family or to get married or what have you. I mean, I'm of the age now, my kids are getting married, their friends are getting married, and you start playing the uncle role or the grandfather role or whatever stage of life you're in. And, everybody's motivations in different aspects are different. So it's really about them, not about you. And I think that comes also with a little bit of age. When we're young, we're egotistical, and
No, absolutely.
the world revolves around
us.
us.
We'll call it wisdom, but there's also, it is deeper than that, right? Wisdom comes, people think know-how, but the wisdom of being okay that I don't have to prove to you how smart I am by telling you all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so that's to me, it's a little deeper and more. Maybe it is true wisdom, but and it's not it's a learned thing if you're actually focusing on it, which is yourself.
Yeah.
But that's generally not in a textbook, and you're just going to figure it out, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The traditional societies, if you understand or hear stories about them, they're very segmented. They have the youth, and then a little bit of older. Like there's like 4 segments, and you really don't get to the wisdom aspect until later in life. Like it's usually 45 plus that these traditional societies actually give you that title of someone of knowledge, right? Like, I mean,
the elder.
Yes, you don't get that title until later, and so it is a lot of times it's just a matter of time in life.
And reflection, and not willing to go wherever you want to go with it. But like there's the part of our spirituality and our the groundedness that comes with that, right?
Yeah. But, and we're both spiritual people, and but some people aren't. And I was just at a conference, and the individual that was leading the conference, it was his business, and he helps people in the home healthcare business, and very successful at it. But he's also he preaches at his church, And so he was like, listen, I'm spiritual, but I recognize everybody else isn't. And so some of his points he even took to a scientific, like learning to just take a moment, whether it's 60 seconds, to just pause, breathe in, listen to your breathing, put the other, wait, what was I going to have for dinner? No, wait, back to the breathing. He's like, there is a spiritual benefit, but for those who aren't, here's the science that back. So it's like, it doesn't matter. There's so many things in life that you can do that are spiritual, but there's also a scientific or a kind of this world benefit to it when you go and look at it. So you can attract people both ways. And to me, that was just a really cool moment. Like, and it literally just happened this week. Yeah. And it was like someone who sits there and preaches in front of a church and then was like, just in case you're not, here's the scientific background. And I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because what do we need as humans? We need evidence.
Yes.
Right? And and again, I'll go there on the religion side of things, right? I was, certainly when we met, I mean, I grew up Catholic, meaning my dad took me to Catholic church. And I questioned every bit of it. For most of my life, I married my wife Colleen is Catholic, and we got married in a Catholic wedding or Catholic church. And I showed up because I was supposed to and do that, right? I was skeptical. And then my children go to a Catholic school, which is one of the best decisions I've made in my life, aside from marrying Colleen. But the act of putting my kids there, it helped me refocus and reshape and relook at what I value most. And at first I said, well, it's a great set of values and disciplines to live by.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm going to go with that. And then as I eventually, actually, a lot of our conversations and as I realized and had evidence, I needed to see evidence of what the hell God was. Because what I questioned was the Bible. I questioned the story. How could you have the same, you over here, this religion had, you and this religion have the same dude we're focusing on, but we have all different wacky stories. Sorry, I'm not trying to minimize anyone's religion by that.
Yes.
I'm just saying that, we all have different views of how we get there and different storylines around it. And so I realized that's what I was questioning.
Yeah.
Was what's the story versus the evidence of God, again, it started with like, I'm seeing things happen. Okay, that's the universe. Well, okay, what's universe? My view is, now I do, it is God.
Yes.
And so I, thick-headed, I needed to see the damn evidence.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's,
everybody, evidence is individualistic, right? Like, so some, and as you know, I'm Muslim, so I embraced Islam in college, and everybody in Islam, there's when you embrace, all your past sins are forgiven, and so a lot of people who were born, I'm putting this in air quotes, Muslim or born whatever religion, for Muslims they're like, oh, you're so lucky you embraced Islam and you got it. And I'm like, listen, man, everybody embraces. Like at some point in everybody's life, those that believe and have faith take time to embrace. Like you have to consciously make that decision. Some people are earlier, some people are later, some people never get there, some people are always there. But at some point you have to consciously do that. So you raise your kids a certain way, whether that's in the church, a synagogue, a masjid, whatever it is. They get to a certain age, and as a parent, it's a nerve-wracking age. You're like, are you gonna do what? And they have to consciously to do that, and that's a journey that my ex-father-in-law was a surgeon, and his moments were like, geez, how do all the body systems work, and then that's his holy moly, there's got to be a God because this is crazy. And you okay, wait, there's a whole universe, wait a second, it's a universe thing, but someo's running the joint. Right?
Yes, the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, it's a journey, and everybody, again, even for that, so all of these decisions are individualistic, not about the person sitting across the table. And you may have a mentor sitting across the table, or a friend, a colleague, or somebody you just look up to. eventually you need your own reason to do it, not because that individual told you to do it.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I was earlier, was skirting around the religion part, because it's, again, what do you want to go there? Do we go there? That's what I mean. You have to be at peace at some form or fashion, and whatever that takes. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is focusing on the gratitude of what other being there is.
Yeah.
And be truthfully in that, to allow you to have that patience to just truly ask a question,
Yeah.
and not come to conclusions. So, didn't think we were going to go there, did you?
Well, hey.
Here we be. Here we be. I love it.
I cleaned the slate knowing that this conversation was
it's me and Brandon. It's going to go places. Let's head over back to the kids part, right? What role, as you've changed hats as far as entrepreneurism and things like that, and moving from another city to another city, and them going through college, what roles? Just throw me some roles that have tripped you up or that you've loved being a part of.
All of it, actually. There's a couple. I'll share a couple life moments, as it were, because I think it may help anybody that's listening to know where my mindset is. My grandmother, and I was a kid doing this, because everybody's like, oh, don't you miss when the kids were X age or whatever? Mm-hmm. And so I'm running around the house and my grandmother's sitting there or whatever. And she goes, I never liked this question, because to me, each stage brings its own uniqueness and blessing, and each stage I could have different conversations. And for some reason, as a 12-year-old running around the house, whatever the heck I was like, that just stuck with me, of the fact that she just enjoyed the journey. And even as my kids were born and grew out of the house, it's always like, don't you, man? Like, nah, man. Like, I mean, that was fun. This is fun. This is, like, my son got married last summer. That's awesome. A 2-year-old doesn't go get married. So I get a whole different set of experiences. Hopefully he's not going to be calling me this week saying, guess what, Grandpa? But let's hope that goes on. The second thing is when I did embrace Islam, my parents basically disowned me. So for the last 27 years or so, I still to this day don't have a relationship with my parents. And I had my godfather at the time, who has since passed, was like, look, parenting is one of those jobs that if you do well, you lose it. And on one level, I think that's 100% correct. Because the relationship changes. You don't really become a parent. You become more of a friend and mentor, advisor, as opposed to what we think as a traditional parent. But on another hand,
thanks for going that connection for me, because I was like, oh.
But on another hand, you're always a parent. I mean, you never lose father or mother status. I mean, that's just, you're always there. But his point was, you don't get to tell your kids what to do. And that affected me drastically with raising my kids, because I worked very hard for a very long time. Now, go get the milk or clean up after yourself. That's telling them to do stuff. But I think as a role as a parent is to give the kids skill sets that enable them to make decisions that align with your values as a parent. And in order to do that, you have to explain why. It's not just tell why. Because then when they grow up and they leave and they can make their own decisions, because you're not looking over their shoulder. And so to me, I've tried to do the role of father, mentor, friend, funny guy, goof master, whatever you want to call it. And I do that today. Like, my kids roll over and come over and like we're all just goofing around like everybody's 10. It's the silliest thing ever. But that's kind of it. And then now, so like, when they're young, you're helping them have fun. And now that they're older, because my kids are 25 to 21, it's an advisory role. It's like, how do I help you with your career? Okay, you just got married. Here's how you should interact with your spouse. All of these things. I mean, it's crazy. So it's the whole, being a parent is a whole gamut. It's a play date. It's a coach. It's it's drill sergeant. It's everything, right? Like, I mean, it's all of that stuff. And my wife and I, she brought 2 kids to the marriage. So like, I now have a 10 and a 13-year-old. And now that I'm older, I'm past 50. For those that are listening, like, there's just a whole different, like, I put up with everything now. The only thing I don't put up with is disrespect. So it's like my kids come over and they're like, who are you as a parent to these two? And why weren't you around when we were that age?
Wisdom.
Exactly. I'm like,
Yeah. Oh,
you're
awesome.
bad luck, they're good luck. What do you want me to tell you?
That's awesome. Which I can only imagine, right? The amount of fun in your house, because we're laughing most of the time if we're not crying and hugging. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, my wife's family, like, it took me. They're like, he's a little loud. I'm like, man, y'all have no idea.
Yes, I am. And I'm not apologizing.
Exactly. And then wait till the boys show up, and it's just one big cluster cuss.
Awesome. Well, hey, I don't want to lose sight of your new venture, which is so not insignificant. It is more than a few pennies that you're raising, and out of the gates, which is kind of unheard of in most times, right? And how you're going about it. So let's explain more of what new cool thing are you bringing to the Detroit area market and then beyond?
Yeah. Yes. As my attempt to be humble is being squashed here by John. So I had a friend and mentor after, again, getting back to spirituality, like God puts people and in place kind of when you need them. Post-divorce, I was involved in this company, and we were trying to scale. And I was like, I need to figure out how to raise funds. So I met a gentleman, Michael Melfi is the gentleman I met, and he had a system called Be Investable. So he literally taught me how to fundraise. Mm-hmm. Many of the skill sets I kind of had, but it's like a lot of things. You know how to do a lot of things, but then someone says, hey, wait, but if you package it this way or think of it this way, it gets you here. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what he did was, you need to do and da-da-da-da-da. And so I went through all this and learned the process. And the owners were like, okay, we're going to bootstrap. So what they have is a process that recycles circuit boards from all of our electronics. And currently what happens is all of those boards get sent overseas, China, India, some places in Africa. Usually it's always the small, poor villages, and they get burned. And usually it's women, pregnant women, little kids picking through all this stuff, breathing in the fumes and the toxicness and all of this stuff. And the town is sitting there as lead enters their water and all of this good stuff, and it's nasty. And the world is throwing millions of tons of this stuff away every year. We in the U.S. throw out 7 million tons of e-waste every year. A lot of this can get recycled. 4% of it is the boards, and this stuff is usually shipped, all of it shipped overseas, because we can't recycle it in the U.S. because the EPA will basically charge fees. So we have a process that does this closed looped. So I'm raising several $1 million. There's a lot of zeros after the millions. And where I'm building a plant in the Detroit area that'll recycle about 16,000 pounds a day. We'll be able to scale that to 32. That'll be the first plant. We'll open up a second plant in the U.S., and then we plan on having 2 more in the EU. And I did this through the process that the mentor taught me 5 years ago. And I'm jumping in head first because there's no need to do it any other way. Everything else is a waste of time.
You gotta take action. Just
exactly.
Do it.
Yes. I want to do M&A, and John said, "Why?" And I said, "No, I'm joking." And so so we're close to. We have an international investor. This happens to be a single source. Which is also rare once you start getting to a certain volume of money, meaning whatever, it can be $1 million, usually less than that for those that are trying to do it. It's kind of a friends and family round. Yeah. You get to $1 million plus, the 1 to 5 million is no man's land, and you got to piece together a few people. When you get over 5 million, you're usually talking to a single or multiple professional like either
Someone
a
can help
VC
you. Right.
or PE or something like this. We happen to be in the tens of millions, so and it's coming from a single source, which is it's nice from an investor or from a business owner standpoint, because I then don't have to worry about multiple investors. I have a single entity that I'm worrying about of making them happy, as opposed to a whole hootenanny. But it's an international firm. I solely use the Be Investable process to go through that, and that's what raising funds is about. Whether it's M&A, whether it's to start a business, whether it's about people are giving you money not because of your idea, they're giving it to you because of you. And if you don't understand that and you don't project that, I don't care how good your story is, they will not do it. And the first time I did it with this company, just to share, they called me up and they were like, look, the deal, we're ready. The only thing, Brandon, is you're not the CEO, the other dude is.
Yeah.
Who's running this company? And I said, I am. The moment the funds land, I'm going to take over. The other person's going to put the lab coat on and go do this. And the answer was, can we confirm that? And I was like, sure. And he wasn't ready at the time, and that's totally fine, because again, the man upstairs has different paths for everybody. But they called me back and were like, you two aren't aligned. So they loved the story, they loved the tech, they loved the idea, they loved the return that they were going to get, everything they enjoyed, and they were investing in who? Me. And when it was a different person, they weren't ready to take that leap. So, and it has nothing to do with it, like, because I can't do this without the science. And the science can't do it without what I bring to the table. So it's a whole partnership. But the point being is, when you're raising, whether through M&A or an idea or a software, whatever it is, they're investing in you. And you have to be investable to get people to share their time, money, and energy into you.
There's a nugget.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. It's got to be a pretty darn good idea. But by the way, if you're just ho-humming it and expecting people to give you some stuff, which most of us kind of, hey, I've done this before, so it's cool, right? You're just going to give me a few $1 million?
Yeah.
Sweet. Right? No, you've got to be you got to live it, you got to breathe it and love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, as we move into like the kind of this topic of like raising funds, this is not a part-time endeavor, and it doesn't come by accident, and it doesn't come by being passive. Raising money is a pain in the behind. You often give up control. You often give up certain things that may make you uncomfortable. You're now responsible for other people's money. And nobody is going to give you money to a passive person. You can't just sit there and talk to your friends and go, oh, I've got this great idea. If we develop this app, it'll, blow your nose for you. And like, it might be the coolest thing since sliced bread, but if you don't have a model, a business plan, a way to make money, a way to give people return, they could care less.
Right.
They're not going to do it.
Awesome. All right. Now the fun part, for me, anyway.
Oh, there you go.
There's some squirming. It's possible, all that, right?
Yes. I like to squirm.
I love to hear a top failure that you've had, personal, professional, whatever it might be, as deep as you want to go, as shallow as you want to go. And what was the learning from it? What can we learn from you stubbing your toe?
As deep as I want to go, huh? And because it's John, we may go deep. Again, so on my mindset, I never regret things, because ultimately those are there for you to become the person you are today. So without those type of things, you aren't experiencing doing what you are today. And if you're regretting what you're doing today, you just have to make better decisions, or different decisions, I should play. It's not necessarily better. Because, so I will dive in real deep. 6 years ago, my marriage fell apart. I left with like $5,000. So I was literally starting from scratch. And if I'm 51 right now, 6 years ago wasn't that long ago. And I was starting from scratch. And the marriage fell apart for a lot of reasons. But what I learned, I took a number of steps at that point, which I think set me on a different projection than other people that go through the same scenario. I took time to delve into the self-psyche. In other words, how do you prevent your mind from squirreling and doing all of these things and take care of these, again, air quotes, neuroses that you get in stressful situations. Understanding kind of what I did wrong. Did I spend enough time paying attention to her, or too much time here or there, or whatever those things are that we all do that it falls apart. And then ultimately understanding what is important to me as an individual, so that if I get to be in a place to do it again, I can be a better person in that scenario. And so the learning lessons are many in there, but it's a matter of, is there enough for you each to explore and find out about each other, but is there enough for you to enjoy about each other? You can't be sacrificing yourself as an individual in a relationship as well, because then the other person is like, dude, this is two people, not one person. Right. And that goes both ways. I mean, that's a total thing. I also, learned ultimately what is important to me, which is my family, my kids, and I wanted that to be the same. I took time, I had successes and failures in business, and so I took time to understand, okay, wait, what made me do X or Y? What would I do different in that same? Because my current wife, I said, one of the very first questions I told her, I was like, listen, I'm an entrepreneur. This has a lot of ups and downs. And if you ain't ready for the ups and downs, then we can part now as friends. And she was like, nah, I'm good. Let's roll. Yeah. And I knew right there. I was like, the way she answered the questions and everything, I just was like, that's it. I mean, she's like, I got a job. We're good. I mean, don't sweat it. Like, just you do you, and we'll go along the roller coaster ride. And without that learning, I wouldn't have asked that question, because at that point, I learned about who I am. At the end of the day, I am an entrepreneur. I mean, I started this at 27. I am not a corporate guy. Yeah. Like, I could go in the corporate, I'll die the next day. Like, I mean, it's suffocating. And so the person, that was important. I'm an entrepreneur. Now you have to understand what that is. And then I had to explain and yada, yada, yada. So it's just moments like that of like, because in that moment of saying a marriage failed, there's so many learning.
Yeah, we got another 3 hours. Let's go.
Yes,
no, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Right. I mean, like literally, you could delve into that, but because it's business, it's personal, it's all of these sorts of things. And then how do you tease those apart? Because what I did not want to do was live in anger or regret, because what that does is tie you to the past. It does not enable you to go forward. And so if you want a gem out of this segment, maybe that's it. Because people get divorced and then they have this regret and this anger, and all that does, and all it does is tie you back there.
And everybody else, not just you.
Right.
Everybody else, right? The kids, the ones you're trying to protect the most, they're diving in that whole little swirl of fun poop back here, just swirling around the toilet. Right?
Now, when my kids come and they're like, well, I'm like, you get that from your mother. Like, of course, there's little things here and all this, right? But I mean, that's part of the fun and the joking. But in all honesty, like, I didn't want to live in the past. I did that. It fell apart for a reason. It did what it did. How do you learn, become better, so that when you get an opportunity to redo it, you do it better?
Yeah, absolutely.
And have more fun doing it.
And now has your cheerleader extraordinaire, right? Pushing you over the edge to go do all the risk, right? Yeah. That's awesome.
But you have to take, the biggest takeaway is self-exploration, and then the willingness to take action on it.
Action. Boy, it's weird that keeps coming up in every conversation I have.
I was going to say, we started and we're ending.
I love it.
Yeah, it's that. If someone tells you don't do anything, I mean, what the heck's it good for then? I mean, you're just
yapping. Yeah. Colleen hates that word when I say yapping. Now my kids say it, and, because I'm from the sticks in Indiana, so she thinks that's where it's from. Anyway, so we'll stop yapping. Yeah. But it has been awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much for gracing everyone with your wisdom. Because you're so old.
Yes, exactly. The gray in the beard's coming.
No, it has been fun, as always. And how do people get in touch with you? How do they support you, et cetera?
You could get in touch with me, Brandon at focus-10.com. I'm not a social media guy, so you can look up Brandon Metzger on LinkedIn too if you want to give me a shout out there. But
We'll put them in the notes for him.
yes, as I mentioned, the old age, I don't do social media. These young whippersnappers in their social media.
Or you
stuff.
can call me and I'll call him on his landline.
Yes,
No,
exactly. My rotary dial.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much. It's been a blast, man.
Thank you, John.
This is a
Appreciate
wrap.
it.
Thanks for tuning in to The Roll Call with John Glahn. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe for more insightful conversations. Remember, discovering your true role in life is a journey worth exploring each and every day. Until next time, keep defining your path and living your authentic self. This is John Glahn signing off.